At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
A mochi moment from Mark, who writes, I just want to thank you for making GLP-1s affordable. What would have been over $1,000 a month is just $99 a month with Mochi. Money shouldn't be a barrier to healthy weight. 3 months in, and I have smaller jeans and a bigger wallet. You're the best. Thanks, Mark. I'm Myra Ahmed, founder of Mochi Health. To find your Mochi moment, visit joinmochi.com.
Mark is a Mochi member compensated for his story.
Voices for Justice is a podcast that uses adult language and discusses sensitive and potentially triggering topics, including violence, abuse, and murder. This podcast may not be appropriate for younger audiences. All parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Some names have been changed or omitted per their request or for safety purposes. Listener discretion is advised.
My name is Sarah Turney, and this is Voices for Justice. Today, I'm discussing the case of Erin Gilbert. In the summer of 1995, 24-year-old Erin Gilbert attended the 20th annual Forest Fair in Girdwood, Alaska, with a man she'd met about a week earlier at a local bar. But Erin never made it home. And investigators say that while they have no suspects, they'd still like to speak with her date to better understand exactly what happened that night. This is the case of Erin Gilbert. In the year 1994, Erin Marie Gilbert was ready for a new adventure. She was in her early 20s and had been living with her father Kurt in San Francisco, California, for about 5 years when she was presented a very unique and exciting opportunity. Her older sister Stephanie invited her to come stay with her in Anchorage, Alaska, basically the polar opposite of San Francisco. But Erin is adventurous and extremely athletic. In addition to acing her classes and maintaining a 4.0 GPA in high school, she played basketball, softball, volleyball, and ran track. She also loves the outdoors. So Anchorage seemed like a great fit. Stephanie's husband, Mike, was stationed at the Elmendorf Air Force Base, now known as the Elmendorf-Richardson Joint Base. Stephanie told Andrea Cavalier with NBC News, quote, My husband traveled a lot for work, and I was alone so much of the time, so I told Erin she could come stay with me in Alaska, end quote. Erin, Stephanie, and their other sister, Catherine, all grew up really close in Everett, Washington. Stephanie attributes this to them all being really close in age. Catherine and Stephanie are about 2.5 years apart, and Catherine and Erin are only 16 months apart. Stephanie said that they were so close that they could just look at each other to know exactly what they were thinking. So I have to imagine that Erin's pretty excited to make the move to Alaska to spend time with her sister, brother-in-law, and their 2 young children while embarking on this new adventure. And really, it seemed like everything was going smoothly. She's spending time with her niece and nephew, taking them to museums and local parks, and really just watching them grow up. By the time Erin's been in Anchorage for about a year, she's turned 24. She's making some new friends and even got a new job nannying for a local family that her sister Stephanie knew. But she was really looking forward to attending beauty school in the fall of 1995. She also had big dreams of becoming a writer. It seemed like everything was falling into place for Erin. She even met a new romantic prospect. At the end of June 1995, Erin went to a well-known bar in Anchorage, Chilkoot Charlie's, known to locals as Coots. Now, this bar is so well-known that it was coined by Playboy magazine as one of the best bars in America. And it's a little different than your traditional bar. It's actually made up of 10 bars under the same roof. They all kind of have a different theme and a different experience. So really, there's something for everyone. But as you can imagine, 10 bars under one roof also made for a pretty crazy environment at times. It's known to get pretty rowdy. But again, Erin's 24 and living her best life. So she, along with many locals, enjoy their time at Coots, including this new romantic interest, David Combs. Erin and David meet at Coots, talk for a bit, and exchange numbers. They make plans to meet at Coots again on Friday, June 30th. And it's here that they make plans to attend an event called the Girdwood Forest Fair the following day. Girdwood is basically a resort town still within the city limits of Anchorage. And the fair is pretty much what you'd imagine. A few days of food, entertainment, local vendors, stuff like that. So at this point, Erin and David have known each other for about a week, have met up twice, and are going on what really sounds like their first official date outside of Chilkoot Charlie's. And like big sisters tend to be, Stephanie is a little overprotective. And her whole family in Anchorage is very intrigued by this new man in her life. They actually all wait on the lawn on July 1st to catch a glimpse of him as he picks her up at around 4 p.m. And Erin's brother-in-law Mike isn't messing around. He asked David to take off his sunglasses so he can get a better look at him. Though Stephanie has said that this could have also just been a respect thing. Either way, Erin's family is involved. They meet David, and even Erin's nephew, who was only 4 years old at the time, urges Erin to take a cell phone with her. But she declines. So Erin and David begin the about 45-minute drive from her home to the fair. Here they are seen by several witnesses. And really, Erin was hard to miss. Not only was she a former model with striking features and dark hair, she was almost 6 feet tall. So a lot of people remember seeing her there that day. But it seems that the last sighting of Erin was when she was with David at the beer garden shortly before 6 p.m. Everything after this sighting really comes from David. He says that he and Erin left the fair at about 6 p.m., but when they got to his car, he realized he'd left his headlights on, and it appeared that the battery was dead. Like Erin, David also didn't have a cell phone with him at this time. He says he told Erin to wait by the car while he walked to a friend's house to get some help. After a few hours of walking and trying to find his friend, David says he got back to his car around 9 p.m., but Erin was gone. From here, he says he went back to the fair to look for her until about 1 a.m., which would make more sense to me. Why wait by the car when you can just go back to the fair? But David can't find her anywhere, and eventually he assumed that she got a ride home from someone else and was probably pretty upset with him. So he goes back to his car without Erin. And this time, somehow, it starts, and he drives home. This episode of Voices for Justice is sponsored by Chewy. If you have pets, you probably know about Chewy, and you also know that when they say that they have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, they're not messing around. To keep them happy, Chewy has over 100,000 products from all the brands my pets love at prices I love. To keep them healthy, Chewy offers pet prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth vet visits, and they're even rolling out vet clinics across the country. I've been shopping with them for a very long time. And in addition to the auto-ship feature that gets the dog's food to them every single month, I also love to experiment with different treats. But I'm a bit picky. For me, it has to be high quality with simple ingredients. I recently picked up treats from Shepherd Boy Farms that are 100% just chicken breast. Popcorn and Heber are already obsessed. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewpanions.chewy.com/SarahETurney. That's chewpanions.chewy.com/SarahETurney to save $20 on your first order with free shipping. chewpanions.chewy.com/SarahETurney. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. This episode of Voices for Justice is brought to you by Quince. I've been trying to be more intentional about what I wear each day. I'm leaning into pieces that feel effortless, comfortable, and still put together, and Quince has been my go-to. The fabrics feel elevated, the fits are flattering, and everything just works without overthinking it. They use premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra-soft denim. And the best part? Everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup. I recently just ordered their tiered linen dress, of course in black. I wanted to pair it with one of my favorite pairs of brown wedges. The problem was, I didn't have a brown purse. So I got that from Quince too. It's one of my favorite outfits. It's easy, effortless, and feels amazing, especially as we're getting a little bit warmer here in Phoenix. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/justice for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/justice for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/justice. At about 7 a.m. on the morning of Sunday, July 2nd, 1995, Erin Gilbert's sister Stephanie gets a very unexpected phone call. It's David Combs asking her if she's seen Erin. He specifically asks if she made it home okay after their date the night before. And after checking Erin's room and seeing that her bed clearly hadn't been slept in, she immediately knows that something is very wrong. Stephanie has described the layout of their home to various media outlets, saying it's entirely possible that Erin could enter their house and go to her room without waking anyone up, but says it would be completely out of character for her to stay out all night and not let them know that she wouldn't be home. Stephanie and Mike waste no time. They pack up the kids in their car and drive straight to Girdwood. But this does take longer than usual. There's only one road to Girdwood. And now it's kind of in the swing of the 4th of July weekend. So the highway was packed with travelers. And the only way to get there is the Seward Highway. It's a 2-lane highway that's known for its accidents, from people crossing over the line into incoming traffic. It's a slim roadway both ways. Driving towards Girdwood, you see the Cook Inlet, where you can sometimes catch a glimpse of beluga whales. When you're headed towards Anchorage, you're against the mountain face. It offers these gorgeous views of these little mini waterfalls coming down the mountainside as you pass, and you may even spot doll sheep on the cliffs. It's an incredibly scenic drive with many pull-offs that can take you to the mountains, the surrounding forest, or onto the beaches. So you can imagine that lots of people are slowing down to take their turns as well as just to take in the scenery. The winding nature of the road also doesn't do drivers many favors. It's so dangerous that there's a law that you have to have your headlights on even in the daytime because of how slim the roads are and how many accidents happen, especially in the busy summer months. I think it's just important to note that really there's all these pull-offs you can take into the middle of nowhere. As you're driving down the highway, you can pull off to a ton of different spots to go mountain climbing, hiking, or just to explore. It also means that you can find yourself completely alone in the last frontier just 5 minutes out of Anchorage. This will be important to remember for later on. So, after fighting traffic, Mike and Stephanie arrive at the Forest Fair in Girdwood. They decide that their best strategy is to divide and conquer, searching the crowd for Erin. They also pretty much begin asking everyone they see if they've seen Erin. And many people say yes, they remember seeing Erin, specifically some of the vendors. They remembered speaking to Erin the night before, but no one had seen her that morning. At this point, Stephanie is running out of options and is terrified. So she asks one of the musicians on stage to make an announcement, to ask Erin Gilbert to come to the stage because her sister Stephanie is looking for her. And luckily, they were more than happy to help. While desperately scanning the faces in the crowd for Erin, Stephanie sees David walking across a small bridge eating a hot dog. He sees Stephanie too and tells her that he's looking for Erin. But this bothers Stephanie. She says that it just didn't seem like David was searching for Erin with any sense of urgency. To her, it looked like he was really just walking around aimlessly, kind of just strolling and enjoying his hot dog and not really looking for her sister. Stephanie said, quote, "I will never forget that moment either, as I also knew immediately I was afraid of him," end quote. All Stephanie can do at this point is just kind of keep note of everything that she's seeing. And after not finding Erin anywhere at the fair, she and Mike expand their search to the wooded area surrounding the fairgrounds. But there's no sign of her there either. So they go back to the fair. Again, this is kind of 4th of July weekend and it's packed. So they think maybe they just missed her in the crowd. But after the second search, they still can't find Erin. And they make the call to the state troopers to report her missing. And you guys, get ready to be frustrated. After waiting hours for law enforcement to arrive, Stephanie and Mike tell them everything. They want to make a formal report. And they tell them, well, Erin hasn't been missing very long and she's an adult. They will not be investigating her case as a missing person at this point. Obviously, it's the last thing this family wants to hear. But that doesn't mean that they're going to stop looking for Erin. Her father, Kurt, flies from San Francisco to Anchorage, and they do everything in their power not only to look for Erin, but raise awareness about her disappearance. They're handing out and posting flyers everywhere. They're calling her friends back in California to see if for some reason she's contacted them. But there's just nothing. No one has seen or heard from Erin, and no one can think of any reason that she would just up and leave her life in Anchorage. But Stephanie's friend Kathy has an idea. She tells her, go to the media. Call up local news stations and tell them that your sister is missing and that the Alaska State Troopers are refusing to take the report. So Stephanie does exactly that. And this is when they finally begin investigating Erin's case. Of course, at this point, they are extremely behind. Not just 24 or 48 hours or even a week behind. It takes almost 2 weeks for law enforcement to begin searching. But they do begin searching. They bring in dogs and helicopters to search the fairgrounds and the surrounding area. They don't find Erin or any of her things or really anything to suggest where she may have gone. At this point, her case is being treated as a missing persons case, but authorities say that they don't have any evidence to suspect that foul play may be involved. In a statement for Anchorage News Daily, her father, Kurt, said, quote, I don't know if she thought he had abandoned her or what. I'm optimistically hoping she went on an impromptu vacation. That's what I want to think. End quote. Stephanie added, quote, everything was going well. She was working, and she was excited about going to school. That's why it's so strange. End quote.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
What they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing, it's rare for the Keys. Any leads on who they might have been running for?
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
On July 21st, 20 days after Erin's disappearance, the Alaska State Troopers conducted an extensive ground search, including rescue canine, troopers, and 50 volunteer searchers, including members of the Alaska Mountain Rescue Group and Nordic Ski Patrol. They searched for about 6 hours, but again, there was no sign of Erin or what may have happened to her. And this is another case where we see families affected by true crime coming together. Karen Campbell, whose daughter Bonnie Craig was found murdered the year before in Anchorage, also joined the search effort for Erin. It had taken Karen a long time to convince the state troopers that her daughter Bonnie's death wasn't an accident, and really to get them involved in Bonnie's investigation. Bonnie Craig was only 18 when she was abducted and murdered while on her way to a 7 a.m. English class at the University of Alaska Anchorage. Over the years, many have suspected that Bonnie and Erin's cases may be connected. But Bonnie's killer, Kenneth Dion, was arrested and eventually sentenced to 124 years in prison in 2011. And investigators do not believe that the cases are linked. But in 1995, Bonnie's mother, Karen, understood what Erin's family was going through. So she came out to offer her support. At this point, law enforcement still hasn't expanded their search efforts far past the fairgrounds and surrounding area, and still don't really know what to make of Erin's case. Trooper Wilhelmi said, quote, She hasn't shown up anywhere. Now we're going back to where she was last seen. We're going to comb that area with a fine-tooth comb to see if she wandered off and got hurt or whatever." End quote. But of course, all eyes were on Erin's date, David Combs, the last person to see her. Aside from his story about his car not working and then all of a sudden starting again, Sergeant Mike Mars from the State Troopers Criminal Investigation Bureau said that they couldn't find any witnesses who saw David Combs during the 2 hours he said he was looking for his friend in Girdwood. So despite this being a very heavily trafficked area, it seemed that no one saw him. It also didn't appear that he was being as cooperative as Erin's family had hoped. They say they repeatedly asked him to help in searching for Erin and to work with state troopers. In the weeks following Erin's disappearance, he did agree to go to the station to take a polygraph test, but he backed out and never did. And while David Combs did speak with investigators and the media initially, he just stopped responding to their requests for interviews. He also eventually refused to speak with Erin's family. Really, he just walked away from the case and it came to a standstill. By the 1-year mark of Erin going missing, law enforcement said that they were still investigating the case, but they hadn't received any calls or leads for months, and everything that had come in was investigated and ruled out. Trooper Bill Hughes said that he hoped the anniversary of Erin's disappearance would bring in some new tips. Quote, "These things jog people's memories. It brings it up in people's conversation. We're just hoping that someone will finally decide they want to say something. Obviously, someone knows something out there." End quote. But that first anniversary of Erin going missing came and went without any answers about what may have happened to her. And as these things do, the years would turn into decades without any viable leads. No trace of Erin Gilbert has ever been found. And as far as we know, David Combs never spoke with investigators or Erin's family past those first few statements he gave back in 1995. In 2017, Erin's family announced a $35,000 reward for information in the case. At this point, Lieutenant Randy Farron was the sole investigator in the Alaska State Troopers Cold Case Unit. He was assigned to 100 cases, including Erin's. Erin's case is still categorized as a missing persons case and not a murder investigation. McFerrin said, quote, "Without a body, we don't know for sure if she's just met with foul play or she died of natural causes. That's often quite a big hurdle to get over." End quote. When it comes to the volume of missing cases in Alaska, McFerrin said, quote, "We live in a very big place, in a very rural place. And it is, I don't want to say easy for people to disappear, but people get lost here and it's hard to find them." End quote. Erin's photo and case details were eventually featured in a cold case playing card deck, along with other unsolved cases from Alaska. But this effort didn't yield any viable leads. McFerrin told Dateline in 2019 that they hadn't received any new leads in several years, but says that they do follow up on anything that comes in, saying, quote, "We just try to keep Erin's story in the public eye as much as possible. It's not over until we find her." End quote. While Lieutenant McFerrin says that they don't currently have any suspects in Erin's disappearance, they have made statements saying that they have attempted to reach out to David Combs multiple times for questioning. He said, quote, "He's the last person to see her as far as we know. He gave a few initial statements when she disappeared, but we want to talk to him again. That's all." End quote. But again, as far as we know, David Combs has never complied with this request. Erin's sister Stephanie has since started a Facebook page called Finding Erin Marie Gilbert, where people can follow the case and leave any information they may have. Stephanie says, quote, "It's been a great outlet to share Erin's story, to keep her face and name out in the world. We don't think she's alive, but she deserves justice." End quote. And that's pretty much where the case is today. So what happened to Erin Gilbert? Well, Erin's case is one where it truly feels like the possibilities are endless. We know she was last seen with David Combs at about 6 p.m. near the beer garden. From there, we only have David's word that his car wouldn't start, and he told Erin to wait for him there. It feels like almost anything could have happened to Erin during that time. Though it feels unlikely, she could have gone to take a walk in the nearby woods where something terrible may have happened, like an animal attack, a bad fall, or some other type of accident. She could have left the car to go look for a payphone, or to walk to one of the nearby businesses to use their phone. She could have walked back into the fair to ask someone else for a ride home, or even just someone in the parking lot. Unfortunately, it feels like she could have been met with foul play in almost any scenario. If someone else did give her a ride home, or even if David Combs gave her a ride home, there are so many places off of that road they could have pulled off into. Many secluded places. But of course, there's no denying that most people, for good reason, point the finger at David Combs. What many locals and Erin's family struggle with when it comes to David Combs' recollection of events is that Alaskans are very prepared. In the state of Alaska, 5 minutes outside of Anchorage, Palmer, Fairbanks, or Juneau, you are truly in the last frontier surrounded by wilderness. Which means that many Alaskans are more prepared for emergencies than you might be in a less rural environment. It's extremely common to keep emergency supplies in your vehicle, including jumper cables. If David's lights were left on and drained his battery, his most convenient option for help wouldn't be looking for his friend for a few hours. Not only were the fairgrounds packed with visitors just there for the day, but also camping out for a few days. There was also a nearby resort and gas station that likely would have been able to offer some type of assistance, even if that was just an offer for David Combs to use their phone to call that friend for help versus just taking a chance to catch him at home during the busy 4th of July weekend. Not to mention, the sun doesn't go down in Alaska in the summer, so all of this would have been happening in broad daylight. And not a single witness has come forward to say that they saw David Combs walking anywhere outside of the fairgrounds. Unfortunately, there are countless places that David Combs would have been able to take Erin in the 13 hours between when she was last seen and calling Stephanie the following morning, many just a few minutes from the fairgrounds. And while, according to Stephanie, David Combs' car was searched, they never found anything of value.
Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
All theories aside, Erin's family, friends, and loved ones believe that Erin died that day in Girdwood. And at the end of the day, all they want is justice. Every year on the anniversary of Erin's disappearance, they call Combs and ask him to please speak with Alaska troopers. But as of this recording, as far as we know, he still hasn't. Now, I do feel compelled to say that refusing to speak with police or refusing a polygraph test is well within his rights, and typically what a lawyer would advise you to do, whether you committed a crime or not. But the frustration that Erin's family feels is understandable. When the last person to see your loved one isn't doing what law enforcement asks of them, it's an incredibly tough pill to swallow, no matter the legality of it. Erin's sister Stephanie no longer lives in Alaska, but she does still travel back and forth with her family to raise awareness for Erin's case. Erin's family says that they'll never stop looking for her, not until they bring her home. In 2023, Stephanie told Alaska's news source Channel 2, quote, "We push because we believe somebody knows something. I don't think someone just disappears," end quote. And that brings me right to our call to action. July 2025, just a few months after this episode airs, marks the 30th anniversary of Erin's disappearance. Please continue to share her photo and her story. And if you use Facebook, I really do encourage you to support her family on the Finding Erin Marie Gilbert Facebook page, which will be linked in the episode description. No matter what happened to Erin Marie Gilbert, she deserves to be laid to rest respectfully. and her family deserves answers. As a reminder, 24-year-old Erin Marie Gilbert went missing from the Girdwood Forest Fair on July 1st, 1995. She is 5'11", with hazel eyes and brown hair. At the time of her disappearance, she weighed approximately 145 pounds and was last seen wearing a black leather jacket, a black and white striped shirt, black jeans, and brown mountain boots. She has a tattoo of a blue flower on her chest. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Alaska State Troopers at 907-428-7200. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. Voices for Justice is hosted and produced by me, Sarah Turney, and is a Voices for Justice media original. This episode contains writing and research assistance by Erin Reed. If you love what we do here, please don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show in your podcast player. It's an easy and free way to help us and help more people find these cases in need of justice. Welcome to the Secret After Show. The door is open and our emotional support puppies Popcorn and Heber are in the room. Now, my life has been essentially consumed with this new possible update in Alyssa's case. I talked about it last week if you don't know what I'm talking about. I also posted about it on social media. And I don't have anything new to share, but I just wanted to say thank you for the support. It has been extremely difficult, but I am still holding out hope that we may get some answers. I have to hold out hope. Other than that, I'm not really reading or watching anything relevant to true crime. I am excited about the new season of White Lotus if anyone else is watching that. I don't do a lot of murder or mystery stuff, but there is something about the White Lotus that I really love. If you guys aren't familiar with it, it's set at, they're all filmed at like Four Seasons resorts, but they call it the White Lotus, and every season is kind of like a different whodunit. You know up front that someone dies or likely dies. We're not quite sure. Actually, no, I lied. I don't want to spoil it. Every season, you're following a murder mystery, and it's just really well written and really funny, which I don't often think goes hand in hand in murder mysteries because I am so sensitive. But there's something about The White Lotus that is just extremely well done. That is what I'm watching. It's not relevant to true crime, sorry, but I know that there's a lot of White Lotus watchers out there, so you are not alone. But let's move on to the case. I want to say up front that this case suggestion came from a name that you might find familiar from our credits or even just in true crime. It came from our researcher/writer, Erin Reed. If you guys aren't familiar with Erin, she hosts a podcast called Sipping on Some Crime. But I've known Erin I believe it was before she started the podcast. I met Erin so long ago, I think around 2017 or 2018. We met online and then the first time in person at a candlelight vigil for Brandy Myers. She was just extremely supportive and has been ever since. She's absolutely amazing, and not only does she really, really care about these cases, which is like the number one requirement to work with me on this show is I want somebody who cares. I think that there's a different drive behind people who care versus just people who can research and write. I will die on this cross that it is not difficult to research and write for true crime. You are looking up facts and weaving a story together. I think that most people can do it, but I think it takes just something a little different for people to care. I think it impacts the research. I think it impacts the writing. So long story short, this came from Erin Reed, who not only is very passionate about this case, but she used to actually live in Anchorage. So it was really cool to get kind of that like insider look. I have never been to Alaska. I aspire to, but I have never been. So it was cool to kind of get this inside perspective. She knew a lot about the area and really how many possibilities there could be in this case, unfortunately. So shout out to Erin. Thank you for bringing this case to my attention. Thank you for working hard on it. And thank you for giving us that inside perspective. Now, I have to say that this one was hard. I think it's one of those cases where, this guy has, a story that doesn't really make sense. I did do some research and like, how possible is it to come out to your car and it doesn't start and then it does again? Let me tell you, in Phoenix, car batteries die all the time because of heat. I have come out to my car, my vehicle, whatever it might be, several times throughout my life to it just not starting, that the battery was dead. When I had a really bad car, it used to happen every summer. Every summer without fail, the peak of heat, I'd come out, battery dead. And never once did the car just turn back on. But I am not a car person. I am not a mechanic. I have read online that there are certain instances where you think the battery is dead, but it's not. I don't know. I'm not a mechanic. The story doesn't sit well with most people, which I think is pretty valid. But it was hard for me because I also have a big heart for wrongful convictions. They're hard for me to cover because I think when you cover most wrongful convictions, someone is getting hurt. And that's really hard for me. It's not my specialty. If the right case came along where I felt that no one in that situation would be hurt by the content that I make, I would be happy to cover it. But I do have a big heart for them. So when I see this guy, David Combs, step away from the investigation, he speaks with police initially, he speaks with the media initially, and then he walks away. And while I am in that situation, I am literally in that situation. My sister is missing. My father has always formally refused to speak with police. He has always formally refused a polygraph. I get it. But it's hard because it is in your best interest to not do those things. So it's hard to like nail him to the wall when I feel like he's taking very reasonable steps that really any lawyer would advise you to do. You knew this girl for about a week. You told the police what you know. You don't need to tell them anything else. I'm not saying I don't think he's guilty. I'm not saying he is guilty. I'm saying that part is hard. And I think it's irresponsible for people like me who are not connected to the case in any way to place blame on somebody or place, I guess any type of guilt on them for not cooperating with police. And I think you can hear the internal struggle in my voice because I'm like, he has rights, but I also know that this is terrible for the family and it probably would help the investigation if he came forward. So I just kind of wanted to bring up that predicament. I think it happens a lot in true crime. I think that one of the big tropes in true crime is placing blame on people who get lawyers. I think it's incredibly irresponsible to really, and you don't even have to like outright tell your audience to like kind of cast this shadow of doubt, I should say, and like, oh my gosh, they lawyered up immediately. When really that's the smartest thing to do. And again, I'm not saying I'm like away from David Combs at this point. I'm not saying that he lawyered up. I'm just saying this is a very tricky subject in true crime. How do you defend the rights of possible defendants, persons of interest, suspects, whatever? How do you uphold those rights while still advocating for the family? I don't know. I think it's really hard. And I try to do that by just presenting the facts. This is what happened. This is how the family feels. And you can decide for yourself. I am here to share publicly, available information. I'm really not here trying to sway you to do anything other than share these cases or participate, sometimes in a more targeted call to action. But as always, I welcome your feedback. What do you think? Let me know on social media, in a DM, wherever you want to find me. I love to know what you think. But circling back to Erin's family, and our hero of the episode is Erin's family. I mean, my goodness, specifically her sister, Stephanie, and her brother-in-law, Mike. One, I just love this scene that they kind of, they paint this picture of the scene of David Combs coming to pick up Erin for their date. And Mike is this military man. He's like, man, take off your sunglasses. Maybe it's to get a better look at her or him. Maybe it's a respect thing. I just love that they were so active and present in Erin's life. This family is on the lawn waiting to meet this dude. That's love. That's love. And of course, the reason that they're the heroes of this episode is because they go even beyond that, right? When they find out that she's missing, when, David Combs calls the following morning, Stephanie and Mike are wasting no time. They pack their kids in the car, 2 little kids, so I'm sure that wasn't easy. Pack them in the car, go, down this freeway that is extremely packed. It's I kept saying kind of 4th of July weekend, because I think it would have fell on a Monday or Tuesday. I have to look back at my calendar, but the weekend before 4th of July, when supposedly tons of people are celebrating, there's the fair, they battle all this traffic, take their 2 young children to the fair, battle those crowds, go into the forest, go back. It's a level of dedication that makes me emotional. It's amazing. They did everything in their power to help, and I really hope that they know that. I'm sure they do. And I hope that they know that they went above and beyond what I've seen, a lot of families do. And that's not to say that other families suck. I think that being in that situation is incredibly hard. And not everyone, knows what to do. But shout out to them for, going right away and trying to report her right away. And, I should add Stephanie's friend to our heroes of this episode for telling her to go to the media. Police won't take the report, go to the media and tell them that. And I also think it's a really good example, too, of just media pressure. And it sucks that it has to be that way. I think that this is another great example, not only of media pressure, but that going to the media is not a first choice for these families. I think in a perfect world, families go to the police, they report what they know, police investigate, and it's solved. I don't think anybody, when their loved one goes missing or is murdered, whatever the case might be, thinks, oh my gosh, I'm going to go on TV and that's going to be a good time or whatever. Media pressure is often the last resort. And I think, again, this case is not only just a good example of what media pressure can do, but that getting to that point is a point of desperation for families, and almost never is option A in my experience. So shout out to Erin's family for creating that media pressure early on and for keeping it on too. Again, I encourage you, as always, to go support her family on Facebook, follow their page for the latest updates. Whenever you can, when appropriate, when we don't think families are involved, which certainly does not seem like the case here with Erin, go get your news from the family. 9 times out of 10, they're going to have more information than we can search for on the internet. We can search for, in old newspapers or with interviews. Go follow that family if you want updates on this case. But let's go on to our segment of hope. And my goodness, the amount of people that sent this article to me, friends, listeners, so many people sent this my way that, of course, I had to make it our segment of hope. I am reading from an article from ABC 15 by Hector Gonzalez and Ashley Holden. The title reads, Phoenix PD arrest 70-year-old man in 1986 murder of Maryvale teen. I want to start with the victim, not the perpetrator. So essentially, 18-year-old Lachelle Shelley Waite was really just finishing up high school at Maryville High when she was killed. She was found dead in her home near 59th Avenue and Thomas Road on January 16th, 1986. The cause of her death was strangulation. And while they were investigating, detectives didn't find any sign of forced entry into her home, and they believed that she knew the suspect. And that suspect ended up being Alfred Earl Green. He was apparently known through Shelley's boyfriend. So not her boyfriend, but known through her boyfriend. And it seems like the Phoenix PD knew that he was pretty much suspect number one at the time, but didn't have enough evidence to make an arrest, and the case went cold. Oh, nothing that irritates me more is knowing what happened and not being able to make an arrest. But in 2016, so oh my gosh, almost 10 years ago now, the Phoenix Police Cold Case Unit reviewed the investigation and identified a piece of evidence collected at the scene that could not be processed at the time of the murder. But of course, we know that DNA technology makes leaps and bounds, it seems like every year, thank goodness, and they retested this in 2022. After that, they identified Green. And for some reason, I'm not quite sure why it took 3 additional years. I'm sorry, y'all, it's the Phoenix Police Department. I have a little bit of bias. I'm just gonna, you already know that. But from 2022, they get this information. 2025, they make the arrest. Now, at this time, Green was already in jail, it looks like for decades. He was serving time for another unrelated Phoenix murder. But at this time, Green is charged with first-degree murder and is awaiting court. And Shelley's family has asked for privacy. But again, this makes our segment of hope because it's a solved case after so many years. And I think it goes to show that it just takes a few investigators to be invested in the case, have some funding for testing, which I know the Phoenix PD in particular has their own internal lab, and just keep following up on these cases. So shout out to those investigators that did take the time to revisit this case, get these items retested, and result in this arrest. So that's why it makes our segment of hope, because truly, I do believe in most cases, there is always hope. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time.